How to retire at 60 in the UK. Exact steps. Retiring at 60 is entirely possible in the UK. Thousands of people do it every year. But the ones who do it successfully, who genuinely arrive at 60 with enough income to sustain the retirement they want, are not the ones who got lucky. They are the ones who started planning it deliberately, usually 5 to 10 years in advance, and who understood a set of specific rules and windows that most people either do not know about or leave too late to act on. In this video, I am going to give you the exact steps, not a general overview, not vague advice about saving more, the specific sequence of decisions and actions that make retiring at 60 in the UK financially viable, covering pension access, the state pension gap, tax strategy, income sequencing, and the one planning mistake that catches more people than any other. And I want to flag something now that we will come back to in detail later. There is a gap, a specific income gap that almost everyone who retires at 60 faces, that needs to be bridged for 6 years before the state pension becomes available. How you bridge that gap, and from which sources, will determine how much tax you pay across your entire retirement. Most people get this wrong. By the end of this video, you will know exactly how to get it right. The first thing to understand is what you can and cannot access at 60. From April 2028, the minimum pension access age in the UK rises from 55 to 57. But in 2026 and the immediate years ahead, you can currently access defined contribution pensions, SIPs, workplace pensions, personal pensions from age 55. If you are planning to retire at 60, pension access is therefore not the constraint it sometimes appears to be. However, there is an important caveat. If you have a protected pension age, typically attached to older workplace pensions from employers in certain sectors, your access age may be different. Check the specific rules of each pension scheme you hold before assuming you can access them freely at 60. What you definitely cannot access at 60 is the state pension. That does not begin until age 66 under current legislation, rising to 67 between 2026 and 2028. And for many people, the state pension represents a significant portion of their planned retirement income. Retiring at 60 means living for 6 or more years without it. That 6-year gap is the central planning challenge of retiring at 60. Everything else flows from it. Before you can plan the strategy, you need the numbers, and I mean specific numbers, not rough estimates. The first number you need is your total pension pot across every scheme you hold. Log in to your current workplace pension provider, find every old employer pension through the government's pension tracing service at findpensioncontacts.service.gov.uk, and check any SIPs or personal pensions. Add them all up, write down the total. The second number is your state pension forecast. Log in to gov.uk and search for Check Your State Pension. You need to know exactly what you are on track to receive, whether you have any gaps in your national insurance record, and whether you need to fill any of those gaps before you stop working. Because once you retire at 60, you stop building qualifying years automatically. The third number is your annual spending requirement in retirement. Be honest here. Most people underestimate this. They forget that in early retirement, spending is often higher than later because you are active, travelling, pursuing hobbies, and spending on the life you have built the retirement around. The Pensions and Lifetime Savings Association moderate standard is £31,300 per year for a single person and £43,100 for a couple. Use these as reference points and adjust for your own lifestyle. The fourth number is your income from other sources. Any defined benefit pension income, any rental income, any part-time earnings you plan to continue, and any ISA or savings balances outside the pension. With those 4 numbers in front of you, you can calculate whether retiring at 60 is currently viable, and if not, exactly how large the gap is and what needs to happen to close it. The pension pot calculator inside Retirement Ready UK does this projection for you, modelling your total pot, your state pension forecast, your other income, and your spending target against the PLSA living standards, showing you whether you are on track and what levers move the needle. The link is in the description. Now here is the income gap problem and why it needs to be solved before you retire rather than after. A 60-year-old with a £400,000 pension pot and no other income needs to generate enough income from that pot to last until at least 66 when the state pension begins, and then, critically, still have enough remaining in the pot to supplement their income for the next 20 to 30 years of retirement. Let us say they need £30,000 per year to live on. Over 6 years before the state pension arrives, that is £180,000 of income needed from the pension pot. But simply withdrawing £30,000 per year for 6 years and then switching to a lower withdrawal rate once the state pension kicks in is not the most tax-efficient approach, not by a long way, and it may also not be the most sustainable approach from a pot longevity perspective. Here is what most people miss. In those 6 years between 60 and 66, your taxable income is almost entirely within your control. You have no state pension yet, no required minimum distributions or forced withdrawals equivalent. Just you, your pension pot, and a tax system that gives you a personal allowance of £12,570 at zero tax, and a basic rate band up to £50,270 at 20%. That gap between your personal allowance and the top of the basic rate band is the cheapest tax window of your entire retirement. Every pound you extract from your pension in those 6 years at 20% or less is a pound that cannot face a higher rate later when the state pension is consuming your personal allowance and your withdrawals are all taxed from the first penny above it. The deliberate strategy is to fill your basic rate band each year in those 6 years, taking more from the pension than you strictly need to spend and placing the surplus into your ISA. You pay 20% on the portion above the personal allowance, but the money that lands in the ISA grows tax-free forever and can be withdrawn with zero tax consequence for the rest of your retirement. For someone with a £400,000 pot who retires at 60 and does this consistently until 66, the lifetime tax saving compared to unplanned withdrawals can be £20,000 to £40,000. That is not a rounding error. There are 5 specific steps you need to take to retire at 60 in the UK. Work through them in order. Step 1. Maximize your pension contributions in the years before you stop working. If you are currently 55, 56 or 57 and planning to retire at 60, you have a 3 to 5 year window in which your employer contributions, salary sacrifice savings and tax relief are all still available to you. Every pound contributed to your pension in these years is worth at least £1.25 to a basic rate taxpayer and at least £1.67 to a higher rate taxpayer because of the tax relief added on top. Use salary sacrifice if your employer scheme offers it, you save national insurance on every pound sacrificed, your employer often does too, and the combined saving can be substantial. Check whether your employer will match any additional contributions you make beyond the minimum. And check whether you have unused annual allowance from previous tax years that you can carry forward and use in a single larger contribution if you have the means to do so. Once you stop working at 60, your opportunities for employer contributions and large tax-relieved contributions shrink dramatically. The money purchase annual allowance, triggered the moment you take flexible income from your pension, reduces the amount you can contribute with tax relief from £60,000 per year to just £10,000 per year. So the window for maximum contributions closes the moment you start drawing. Step 2. Fill your state pension gaps before you retire. Once you retire at 60, you stop building qualifying national insurance years automatically. If you have gaps in your record, filling them before retirement is almost always cheaper and simpler than trying to do so after. Call the Future Pension Centre on 0800 731 0175 and ask them to run through your record with you. Identifying which gap years, if filled, would actually increase your forecast. Each qualifying year costs £824 in Class 3 contributions and adds approximately £328 per year to your state pension for life. The payback period is under 3 years. For anyone with gaps, this is one of the best financial decisions available. Also consider whether you want to defer your state pension beyond 66. Every 9 weeks you defer increases your weekly payment by approximately 1%. If you have strong income from other sources in the early years of retirement and do not need the state pension at 66, deferring for 1 or 2 years locks in a permanently higher payment. Model the break-even against your expected longevity before deciding. Step 3. Build your ISA before you retire. Your ISA is the most tax-efficient bridging tool available for the gap between 60 and 66. Withdrawals from an ISA are completely invisible to HMRC. They do not count as income. They do not affect your tax code. They do not appear in any tax calculation. In the years between 60 and 66, when you are drawing from your pension, supplementing with ISA withdrawals rather than taking larger pension withdrawals keeps your total taxable income lower and your tax bill smaller. If you arrive at 60 with £80,000 or £100,000 in an ISA alongside your pension pot, you have enormous flexibility in how you blend your income sources to minimize tax in the bridge period. If you are currently 3 to 5 years from your planned retirement at 60, focus now on filling the £20,000 annual ISA allowance, or as much of it as your income allows, every year until you stop working. Step 4. Plan your income sequencing before day 1 of retirement. Do not wait until you have retired to think about this. The income sequencing decision, which pot you draw from first, in what amounts, in what combination, should be planned in detail before you hand in your notice. Specifically, you need to model year by year from 60 to 85 or beyond what income you will take from the pension each year, what you will supplement from the ISA, when the state pension starts and how that changes the picture, how you will manage the transition from the pre-state pension period to the post-state pension period, and what you are targeting as a residual pot at age 75 to cover later life care costs or to leave to your family. The Drawdown Planner inside Retirement Ready UK models exactly this year-by-year picture. You enter your pension balance, ISA balance, state pension forecast, spending target, and retirement age, and it shows your projected income, tax position, and pot trajectory year by year. This is the tool to use when building your sequencing plan before you retire. Link in the description. Step 5. Get your tax-free cash decision right. When you start drawing from your pension, you are entitled to take up to 25% as a tax-free lump sum, up to a maximum of £268,275 under current rules. Most people take the full amount the day they retire. Whether that is the right decision depends on your specific circumstances. If you need the lump sum to fund the early years of retirement and have no other cash reserves, taking it makes sense. But if you have ISA savings and other income that can cover your costs, there is a strong argument for leaving the tax-free cash inside the pension and using Flexi Access Drawdown, under which 25% of each individual withdrawal is tax-free. Spreading the tax-free cash across multiple years of withdrawals keeps your annual taxable income lower and reduces the total tax paid in the bridge period. This decision interacts with the money purchase annual allowance. Taking any flexible income from a pension triggers it, so it needs careful thought before you act. If you are still planning to make meaningful pension contributions in your final working years, understanding this interaction is essential. There are 4 mistakes that repeatedly derail retirement at 60 plans that looked viable on paper. The first is underestimating the state pension gap. People see a pension pot of £350,000 or £400,000 and feel confident, but they have not modelled what 6 years of withdrawals does to that pot before the state pension provides its support. A pot that comfortably funds a retirement starting at 66 may be significantly stretched if the same withdrawal rate starts at 60. The second is not checking whether their mortgage is paid off or on track to be paid off before retirement. A £400,000 pension pot looks very different alongside zero housing costs than it does alongside a £900 per month mortgage payment. If your mortgage will still be running at 60, model the retirement income with that cost included, not excluded. The third is triggering the money purchase annual allowance accidentally. Some people take a small flexible withdrawal from their pension at 58 or 59, perhaps to test the system, or because they need a small amount of cash, without realising they have permanently reduced their future contribution limit to £10,000 per year. If you are still working and contributing, do not touch the pension flexibly until you have finished maximising contributions. The fourth is retiring without a written income plan for the first 10 years. The decisions you make in year 1 of retirement set the pattern for everything that follows. Taking a year off to think about it, or drawing ad hoc amounts as and when you feel like it, is not a plan. It is a drift that will cost you in tax, in pot longevity, and in peace of mind. Write the plan before you retire. Model the numbers. Know exactly what you are drawing from each source, each year, for at least the next decade. Retiring at 60 in the UK is achievable. It requires a pot that is large enough to sustain 25 to 30 years of income. It requires a state pension that is as complete as possible before you stop earning qualifying years. It requires an ISA built up alongside the pension to give flexibility and tax efficiency in the bridge period. And it requires an income plan that treats the 6 years before the state pension arrives as the most tax-sensitive period of your entire retirement, to be managed deliberately rather than by default. If you are currently between 55 and 59 and the plan is to retire at 60, the decisions you make in the next 1 to 5 years will define the quality of the retirement you reach. Every pound of additional pension contribution, every national insurance gap filled, Every year of ISA saving. Every element of the income plan put in writing before day 1. Check your state pension forecast today at gov.uk. Trace any old pensions through the government's pension tracing service. And run your full retirement income projection through the tools inside Retirement Ready UK. The pension pot calculator and the drawdown planner together give you a complete picture of whether retiring at 60 works for your specific numbers. Link in the description. Hit like if this was useful. Subscribe for more UK retirement planning content. I will see you in the next one.